Okay, today I'm talking about 3 non-English language Christmas films. And the names of those 3 movies are Tokyo Godfathers, Rare Exports, and 2046. The first up is Tokyo Godfathers. This is a 2002 Japanese film. The basic premise is there are 3 unhoused individuals, grumpy old man, a snarky teenage girl, and a transgendered woman. They're all buddies, and it's Christmas Eve. They're gonna exchange some presents, but they need to go find them again. And while searching for the presents, they stumble across an abandoned baby. So the rest of the story is about this trio of misfits trying to unravel the mystery of whose baby this is and why were they left behind. And it's great. I really enjoyed this movie. First off, I have to praise it for its Christmas magic. Like, this movie is unequivocally, definitely, without a doubt, a Christmas movie. Because it is just filled to the brim with Christmas magic. And I love it. And it's the kind of Christmas magic that I especially love because it's not just like, oh, here, look at this magic. It's more just like something happens and it's like, well, was that magic? Or was that just like a good thing that happened? And yeah, no, I loved that. The 3 main characters were great. They're really fully realized characters, but very different stories going on, and they have plenty of character flaws. But everything about them is super interesting, and you want to see where they go, and you want to see them succeed, but there's also just so many things that come up. The ending's really great. Like, I don't know, just like so much about this movie works really, really well. I just want to point out that characters are a bit crass at times, a little bit ugly at times too. And then in particular, the grumpy old man uses a number of gay slurs. It's directed at the transgendered woman. They have a complicated relationship, but there's genuinely love there, so it's not really from a place of malice. But I totally understand if like that's off-putting to some people. Regardless though, I really love this movie and would wholeheartedly recommend it. It's just a great, really fun, interesting, unique Christmas story that's totally worth a watch this Christmas season. Next up is Rare Exports. This is a 2010 Finnish film, and the basic premise is it is 24 days until Christmas. It is a small Scandinavian town, and there's a group of English-speaking people who are doing a bit of excavating of a mountain. And maybe they uncover something that harkens back to the original fairy tales of Saint Nicholas that are a bit more, I don't know if evil is exactly the right word, but you know, a bit more fucked up than the Coca-Cola version that we have. And it's really good. Just like fundamentally, it is a well-made film. Structure-wise, story-wise, it has all of the taperings of a well-structured, well-made film. It just looks good too. They definitely had a smaller budget, but like they pushed as much out of that budget as they could. Like there's some CGI that's not the best, but like they make it work. I could easily overlook any of the little janky CGI. I did have it in my head that this was gonna be a bit more graphic, like gory than it was, and I could have used like a scotch more gore, but generally though, they had as much as the story really dictated. They didn't need to be like super overly gross. There is some nudity, but it's non-sexual. I don't know, I love the main little boy who knows what's up and people doubt him right away. His relationship with his dad was really interesting. It really, really worked, and it's definitely without a doubt a Christmas movie too. That's something that I really liked about it, is you could definitely feel like the Christmas spirit in this one. I do have something to say that's not a complaint, but it kind of sounds like a complaint, in that it's interesting that there's no women in this movie. There's one reference to the mom that's not in the picture anymore, and then there's a list of names at one point, and one of them might have been a girl's name, but that's it. There's no women or girls featured in this film at all. It's just men. And I don't think that was done from a place of malice. Like, I don't think it was misogyny, just because of like the wholesome nature of the rest of the film. But I do think it was done deliberately. I just don't know why or what reasoning. If you do happen to know or have a theory on why, I would love to know, or if like you've read or seen someone else talking about it, I would love to know. Because it definitely could be like a cultural thing, like something within the Finnish world that I just don't know about. So yes, please enlighten me if you know. But if you haven't seen this film, I would again totally recommend it. It's a really great, really heartfelt Christmas movie. It's got like the fun kids doing something, a little quirkiness of like Home Alone. Not to that extreme, but like, you know, that kind of vibe. You know, single dad struggling to raise his kid in this harsh reality. Maybe he's being too hard on his kid, or maybe his kid's too soft. The kid's not too soft. And just, yeah, no, it's great. I love this film. Totally recommend. And lastly is 2046. This is a 2004 Hong Kong film. It is technically the last in a trilogy, and I read they're all standalone films, but it's recommended you watch them as a trilogy, especially because this one technically wraps up stuff from the other two movies. And I do believe I probably would have gotten more out of this film had I done that, and also just like liked it more and had more sympathy for it. But from what I can gather, this is considered the weakest of the three, if not one of this director's weakest films, period. That being said, it's still regarded really well, though I did not care for it. Really, there's three things. So firstly, the beginning is intentionally confusing. Like, I was confused with line 2, because the first line's essentially, it is the year 2046. And I'm like, okay, it's the future. And then the second line is, everyone wants to get to 2046. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Okay. And the third line something like, but no one can ever leave 2046 when they get there. And it's like, I thought 2046 was a year. What's going on? And then I rewound it to make sure I was reading it right, and it was. I eventually figured it out, and that 2046 represents this Rome thing. It's complicated and convoluted and metaphorical. It's intentionally really confusing, and I hated that. It's just too much. Next up is I really hated the main character. I really hated a lot about the main character. In particular, he felt like just a male fantasy character, insofar as the character is a writer who writes books and newspaper article things. So, you know, big jump to screenplay writer. But then, like, he's this suave ladies' man who sleeps with women all the time, but he doesn't care about them. He's just having fun, and he's just having all the sex he wants to have. And like, he's so good at it. A woman who's maybe a prostitute, I really don't know, but for the sake of it, let's just say that she is. He's so good at the sex that he convinced the prostitute to not have sex with anyone else, even though he didn't ask her to. And she wants to like settle down with him, but he's not about that because he doesn't care. And I'm like, I hate you. This is so scummy and gross. No. And then, like, what was really the nail in the coffin, which is my third point of what I disliked about this film, is that the main character does not know what consent is. So, like, the second scene with the maybe prostitute woman, he's apologizing for the first scene, and he wants to give her a gift, and she says no, about a dozen times. Eventually, though, he forces it on her, forcefully wraps her hands around the box, and then pushes her away. So, gross. And then she eventually opens up the box, and it's a really disgusting gift. But of course, she loves it because she, you know, really liked that interaction of her saying no lots of times and him, you know, taking no to actually mean yes. And then to like make it not thinly veiled at all, he later explicitly says, I forget the exact phrasing, but it's essentially, she taught me that no doesn't always mean no. Sometimes it means yes. And I'm like, this movie. No. That is disgusting on all levels. Good God, no. I wanted to shut it off right there, but I kept watching just because I know it's supposed to be a really good movie. And like, there are other parts of the movies where he's dealing with other women where I liked it better, but in the back of my mind, I'm still always just like, no, this guy is a scummy, gross, terrible person. I hate him, and I don't give a shit about anything in his life. This guy. I understand that the director is a much loved director, and this is apparently a loved film. I don't care. I do not like this film, and I absolutely would not recommend it. Alrighty, for today's rankings, first up we got Tokyo Godfathers sitting at number 60 in the really like section. And then not too terribly far behind is Rare Exports sitting at number 74, also in the really like section. It's a really big category. And And then bringing up the rear, rightfully fucking so, is 2046, sitting unintentionally at number 246 in the didn't like category. And this is a total of 267 old movies so far this year.